what does it mean to say God created everything, the world, from nothing?
I think we can understand this concept more easily if we recall Aristotle's distinction between different types of causes. Aristotle said one type of cause is what he called an efficient cause. An efficient cause is a cause that produces the effect in being. It produces the effect in existence. An example of this would be Michelangelo being the efficient cause of the statue called the David. He is the one who sculpted, who made the David. In addition to efficient causes, Aristotle said there's also material causes, and this would be the stuff out of which the effect is made. So in this case, the material cause of the David would be the block of marble, which was brought from the quarry to Michelangelo to sculpt. So that when you ask about the cause of the David, you would say that Michelangelo is its efficient cause, but the marble block is the material cause. Now, with that distinction in mind, the doctrine of creation is the view that God is the efficient cause.
Made it happen.
Exactly. Of all reality exterior to himself, and that there is no material cause of that reality.
There was no pre-existing stuff.
Exactly. In other words, it's a rejection of any kind of metaphysical dualism, that originally there was God and some kind of other stuff
which God
over
fashioned.
Against God, yes, which he fashioned or shaped into a world. Rather, God is the efficient cause of the world and everything in it. All matter and energy, space and time themselves have been brought into being by God at a certain point in time. So the doctrine of creation, again, would be the doctrine that God has brought everything other than himself into being without any material cause.
So let's layer on this the latest thinking in cosmology, which brings everything back to a point in time, a small fraction of a second, 10 to the minus 40-something, who knows how small, incredibly small time period, an incredibly small space in which there is violent energy, extremely hot, energetic, from which everything later develops.
Yes.
Where do we get that from?
Well, on the Christian view, that initial singularity or initial space-time boundary is brought into being by God. And I think one of the most exciting
out of nothing.
Out of nothing, yes, without any material cause. And he is the cause of all the energy and mass in the universe and of space and time themselves, the framework in which matter and energy exist. And one of the most exciting developments of contemporary cosmology is that it has brought this doctrine of creation out of nothing into mainstream science and mainstream thinking. For centuries, the Judeo-Christian tradition held to the doctrine of creation out of nothing in the face of ancient Greek philosophy, modern Enlightenment naturalism, and modern materialism and idealism, all of which said that the universe is eternal and uncreated. And in the face of almost universal opposition, the Judeo-Christian tradition has held to the fact of creation out of nothing. And then dramatically, during the course of the 20th century, against all expectation, this prediction was verified by modern science, which has established rigorously that there is a past boundary to the universe before which literally nothing existed.
Now, there are two different views on that, other than what you're saying. From the theological point of view, there are some theologians who would say, even today, that there is no deep theological stake in the difference between a creation from nothing or God sort of sustaining eternally this eternal world. So let's deal with that first.
You're entirely correct about that, and I think that this represents, to be quite frank, a retreat on the part of certain theologians in the face of this sort of opposition from naturalism, materialism, and idealism that I spoke of a moment ago. I think that it is an attempt to shelter theology in a safe harbor of non-falsifiable, non-verifiable.
So no matter what happens,
domains.
it can't be attacked.
Exactly. It's an attempt on the part of theologians to shelter theology in a safe harbor of non-verifiable, non-falsifiable assertions, which really renders theology utterly irrelevant to the world. And so I think it's quite a mistaken strategy to try to shelter theology in that way. And frankly, it doesn't need sheltering because, as I say, I think that the best evidence of contemporary cosmology is strongly confirmatory of the doctrine of creation.